Good afternoon, this is JC, and I wanted to tell you that this video is about 7 minutes long, but please listen to it all. I want you all to listen to it because it's about the tariffs that Trump is putting on Canada, and it's about the tariffs that Canada is putting on exports to the U.S. And as of today, Monday, Ontario, Canada, is putting a 25% surcharge on the or tariff on the electricity they export to Michigan, Minnesota, and New York. So I want you to listen to the article. I'm reading it. It's from Associated Press. I'm reading it. At the end, I'm going to tell you something that's very important. That's why you need to listen to the whole 7 minutes. Thank you. It's JC, St. Louis's oldest living hippie, saying, please listen to the entire article. Good afternoon, this is JC, and I'm bringing you an Associated Press release. And it's about what's happening in Ontario, Canada. I think you need to know this. As you know, Trump put a 25% tariff on Canada, then he removed it, and I don't know if he's put it back or if he's going to do it again in April, but this is up, down crap. The province of Ontario, the governor or premier or whatever they call them, his last name is Ford. I can't remember if it's what his first name is. I'll get to it. But I want to read you this AP release. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I think at the end I'm going to explain to you what all this means. Because I lived and grew up in Detroit, and I was always going over to Windsor, Ontario as a kid and hanging out in Windsor, Ontario on Sunday afternoons, go over there and have picnics and go over there and buy things because they were cheaper in Canada and so on. So I'm familiar with Ontario. Ontario is the biggest province in Canada and has the most residents. They call it the most populous. Okay, so let's read this. Ontario slaps 25% tax increase on electricity exports to the U.S. in response to Trump's trade war. Well, that means that Michigan, where I'm a resident, even though I'm in St. Louis, I'm a resident of the state of Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and New York probably, and probably Pennsylvania, who get a lot buy electricity from Ontario are going to see a 25% increase in the price of electricity that they buy to use for their customers' homes and businesses. So let's go here. Toronto, Ontario. Ontario's premier, the leader of Canada's most populous province, announced that effective Monday, that's today, it is charging 25% more for its electricity to 1.5 million Americans in response to the U.S. President Donald Trump's trade war. Ontario provides electricity to Minnesota, New York, Michigan. I thought it was also Indiana and Ohio, but maybe not. I will not hesitate to increase this charge if the United States escalates. I will not hesitate to shut off electricity completely. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, I thought his first name was Doug, but I wanted to be sure, said at a news conference in Toronto. That's a picture of him right there. And he's actually a conservative. He's not a liberal. He's a conservative Canadian. He said, believe me when I say I do not want to do this. I feel terrible for the American people who didn't start this trade war. It's one person who is responsible. It's President Trump. Ford said Ontario's tariff would remain in place despite the 1 month reprieve from Trump, noting a 1 month pause means nothing but more uncertainty. Quebec, or as Canadians say it, Quebec, is also considering taking similar measures electricity it exports to the U.S. Ford's office said the new market rule requires any generator selling electricity to the U.S. to add a 25% surcharge. Ontario's government expects it to generate 300,000 Canadian dollars, 208,000 U.S., I guess, to 400,000 Canadian, 277,000 U.S., which will be used to support Ontario workers, families, and businesses. Canada takes care of its people. The new surcharge is in addition to the federal government's initial, what do you call it? CA, I can't remember what it stands for, $30 billion, $21 billion worth, Canadian money, stands for Canadian dollars. Excuse me, I'm sorry. 30 billion, 21 billion US dollars worth of retaliatory tariffs that have been applied on items like American orange juice, peanut butter, coffee, appliances, footwear, cosmetics, motorcycles, and certain pulp paper products. All right. Trump, the trade war intensified. Um, I'm not going to say much more about this, but I'm going to jump over it and down here. Ford estimated it will add about $169 a month to the bills of each American affected. And it needs to end unless these tariffs are off the table. Until the threat of tariffs is gone for good, Ontario will not relent. Ford said Trump changes his mind every day, but if he continues to attack Canada, we will do everything it takes to maximize the pain. Republicans, at least the ones I speak to, do not agree with President Trump, but they are too scared to go out there and say it publicly, Ford said. It's a shame, but we need to end this. And Trump has urged U.S. automakers to move auto production from Canada and Mexico to the U.S. And that's why he granted a 30-day reprieve on the 25% tariff, because the automobiles are exported under the trade agreement that's called USMCA. That's U.S., Mexico, and Canada trade agreement. Because automobile parts and cars are also made in Mexico. The truck that I have is a Ford truck, and it has parts and partially assembled in Mexico. So Ontario is the auto sector of Canada. Yes, it is, because Ontario is right across the river, which is the St. Clair River, from Detroit, Michigan. You would expect it to be. Premier Ford also noted Trump is threatening Canada with steel, aluminum, and dairy tariffs. I will do whatever it takes to maximize the pain against Americans, Ford said. And that's enough. But here's what I want you to understand. We are putting a 25% tax on exports from Canada. Well, what's going to happen is the 25% that Ontario has put on electricity is on top of the 25% that the U.S. is charging. So you're going to be paying, if you get electricity in Minnesota, Michigan, and New York, you're going to be paying a 50% surcharge on that electricity. That's how it works. The tariffs are additive. They add up. They don't, it's like, it's not just 25% and that's it. No, it's 25 plus 25, which equals 50%. That's what I want you all to get from this, is that it is a 50% surtax on the electricity you're going to use. This is JC, St. Louis's oldest living hippie, saying, I love you, Doug Ford, and I love all the people of Canadians. It's Canada forever in my mind. I was married to a Canadian for 2 years back in the 60s. I know all about Canada. And I want to also say to everybody who follows me, everybody, my family, I love you all. And fuck Donald Trump. Box and more, Jack. Keep on trucking.